R.I.P. Tommy James. Sadly died on screen. And certain brands really leak hard, I tell you, without mentioning a brand name there. I wish I remembered I had this Gordon.
Flippin' hell! Mr. Hammer's flippin' heavy!
Warning, this video is made for a general audience. It may contain adult themes, consumer affairs advice, historical information, retail analysis, and weird funny bits. I need to say all this here because the YouTube systems are totally dumbass. Well, hi there. I'm sorry, I'm feeling a bit glum. I'm feeling very melancholy. I'm having more trouble with YouTube, and my videos are being seen as made for kids, and I'm losing every appeal. I can't win an appeal. In this video, I'm going to attempt to look at this James, All Engines Go James motorised version. And of course, what I like to do is compare it to previous versions of the engine. I might talk about things we spoke about in the Gordon review by looking in this tub here, but first let's have a discussion about this here. Okay, this is part of the documentation that YouTube put up to help you understand what made for kids versus what not made for kids videos are. The title here is, how do I know if I should set my content as not, in capitals, made for kids? I like to come down and read this section here, general audience content, because I think general audience content is very important to understand. Let me read on here. General audience content is content that could appeal to everyone, but isn't intended specifically for children, or content that is intended for a teen or older audience. General audience content should be set as not made for kids. I'll read that again. Not made for kids. I'm starting to speak out about this now because what I've noticed over the last 12 months, and I remember this from this time last year when I had a string of videos which were deemed made for kids, and every appeal that I made against the videos, because you get one appeal, and if you lose that appeal, YouTube system wins, or you get your video back as a normal video. But what I've noticed is every appeal I now lose. I'm unable to win any appeals. That's been for about a year now. The review process seems to be far stricter now, and I like to say it seems to be dumber, and that's why I have that title, YouTube is dumbass. Makes some people laugh, probably makes other people cry. And to think about the YouTube Kids app, it goes back to I think 2015. And one day, I won't tell you in this video, but one day I'll tell you a story how the Google staff wanted us to promote that app and use it. Another day I will tell you that story. That is, if I ever get to tell you the story. And unfortunately, the YouTube Kids app also had problems because at the same time we had producers making some fairly ratty kids content. Maybe you remember what was going on there, and it made a lot of people look at exactly what was going on. And once people start to look and analyze, they like to pull it apart. And by 2019, YouTube was fined $170 million for collecting personal information from minors without parental consent. And part of the fix of that was to implement the nightmare of classifying content as made for kids or not made for kids. When I get one of these made for kids flags fall on me, in the appeal process I like to use YouTube's own language and explain back to them that my video is made for a general audience. I point out sections in the video which would be aimed at people of all ages, and often in my videos, and if you've known me on YouTube for a long time, you'll know I always like to sneak in a consumer affairs aspect into a video. It's a dry subject, but I like to sneak it in. I'll talk about toy history, sometimes toy collecting, and maybe toy investing sometimes. We take a look at prices on eBay and have a bit of a giggle. If you go to the About page on my YouTube channel, there's a little blurb there that I've had there well before the copper decision in relation to YouTube Kids. I'm going to read part of it here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can read the whole thing if you want and go to sleep. It says, Leo Kim Video is a YouTube channel that's always been family friendly, but not a stuck-up YouTube Kids channel. I review, modify, collect toys, new and old, and my videos can be enjoyed by all ages. And that's the way I've always been on YouTube. I'm not a person who will make a focused children's video. And it's one of these little queries, and I think to myself, what's a good query about what's a children's thing versus what's an adult's thing versus what's made for all people? Think of the movie Toy Story by Disney Pixar. Is that a kids film Or is that an adult film? Or is that a film that appeals to everyone? Have a think about that one. Now, when I see my biggest videos, and this is the thing, as YouTube pick apart my channel, either by demonetization, either by saying it's age restricted or whatever, it's always my biggest videos. And this is the fail of the system, or the way my channel is failing. It's just being picked apart video by video. If it falls to becoming a YouTube Kids video, it's basically worthless. It's almost like it gets hidden away. And I don't understand how the YouTube Kids environment works. I don't want to look at the app. I just wish the whole thing would just go away and never ever come back. Yet one constant I see is as soon as a video becomes YouTube Kids, you might as well just wrap it up and throw it in the bin. And as for income on videos that end up becoming YouTube Kids, well, it's like being paid peanuts. I don't think there'd be any person who'd be out there producing a quality video that cost a fair bit of money to produce and made it for YouTube Kids, because you know what? You're never ever going to get your money back. And it goes back to the whole idea is that I've got a saying now, my God, I better not spend more than $10 when I'm making a video, or else I'll never get the money back. And that's sadly how the site's become. It's just strange the way YouTube has changed radically, let's say from 2014 onwards, and really from that point on it's been impossible for me to grow my channel. That's been one of the hallmarks of, let's say, that era of YouTube. And part of me thinks, oh, it'll get better, we'll get through this phase. You know, and even the CEO goes, oh, we're going to have a bit of a rough time and then we're going to come out of it. Well, can you tap me on the shoulder when we're coming out of it? Because at the moment I can't see that. But anyway, look, I've just wanted to have this little blurble here about what's going on. You know, and when I see a video where I review Christmas train sets and the system sees this as a YouTube Kids video, but I say to myself, well, hang on, I'm actually speaking to what would be adult people buying this and explaining to them the good, bad and indifferent aspects to Christmas train sets. In fact, I don't think there's any that are good. It's a bit of a scam. The whole thing's, Christmas train sets is quite a scam. And I'm sure in those videos I'll talk about price. I'm sure I'll talk about quality, things to avoid, basically avoid all of them. Yet, the YouTube system sees this as made for kids. So when videos like that start to fall over, well, the whole channel is gone. Really, where's the start and stop of this if they don't accept what a general audience video is? And it seems that's one of the things that I've noticed, especially in the past year, that they will just ignore the whole idea of general audience. And that's why I'm having my blurble here before this waste of time video that you're about to see. Look, it's just good to get it off my chest. I feel better for saying this because then you understand how I feel as a producer on the site. I mean, Google would not give a crap. I know that for a fact. They wouldn't give a crap about how we feel. And let's say if I just drop dead tomorrow from this, they wouldn't care less. They would not care less. I absolutely guarantee to you, they wouldn't care less. Because I'm not part of their bigger plans. I'm just this nuisance person from the past when YouTube is a far, far better place. Maybe you can have your 5 cents in reply in the comments area in this video. That is, if it doesn't turn into a YouTube Kids video, because I'd be very keen to hear what you think about what's going on, and maybe you understand how I feel about being on the site now. I just wish I could go back to, let's say, pre-2012 era. Man, I just wish I could go back in time. I'll stop talking here and we'll get on with the video, but please consider what I just had to say because this site is killing me. Sorry about that verbal, but when I'm gone, you'll understand why I've gone. I'll gently put that aside. That was gentle, and I'm so angry at the moment. I'll go and make myself a cup of coffee. I'll be back in a flash.
Oh, it's getting a bit hard to get up here. I'm getting a bit older. Hey, if you're going to make a coffee, make one for me. I'm the person running the show. And that's the problem. He has got zero understanding of who's actually running the show. And he tells you some gobsmacking sob story about YouTube Kids and getting videos flagged and losing appeals and general audience BS. Don't believe a word he says because he's just after sympathy. I told you he's a narcissistic sociopath of the most highest into a little secret. Come closer so he doesn't hear. Come closer. Guess who's flagging his videos? Just guess. It's me. It's me, because I want him off the site. He doesn't even know that Google/YouTube want him off the site as well. Well, I'm in cahoots with them. They're actually paying me to get rid of him because he knows nothing. Let me say that loud and clear. He knows nothing!
Well, I've got a nice, strong, fresh coffee here. I'll just put it over here very carefully.
Where's my coffee, you frickin' clown?
Did you hear that?
Frickin' coffee, you frickin' forgot.
It sounded like something in pain. Something saying something about the coffee. Weird. I'm hearing all sorts of noises in here. I'm actually half expecting to find a stupid, pathetic little note somewhere. That's been another thing that's been going on. Anyway,
I told you he's got no idea who's running the show.
I keep hearing voices here. I'm a little bit spooked. I don't like it. Don't like hearing voices. I'll get the Jameses in order here. Look, I'm really thinking I'm wasting my time. That's the strangest feeling when you go to make a video and you think I'm just wasting my time doing this. And that's how I'm feeling at the moment. I've got to talk about this box in this video. I hope I don't forget, but I'll just slide it to the side gently. First time I've done something gently for a while, isn't it? Okay, in my hot hands here, I read the box again, Thomas & Friends, James, and it says motorised here. This is the All Engines Go version of James. It's a complete revamp of what came before, and we will take a look at what came before. That's the back of the box there, and as I said in the Gordon review, this really is just gobbledygook. If a parent comes to store, hey YouTube, parents come to the store and buy this stuff. Did you hear that? Whoop-de-doo, whoop-de-doo, whoop, 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 whoop. I might be talking to a parent right now. And if a parent does come to the store, guess what? They've got no clue of how James fits into the franchise. Whoop, 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 whoop. I'm sorry for doing that, but I'm actually not sorry because I'm up against a wickedly nasty system. Now, I've already spoken about James. I feel the line work is not right in this, and while I've got the box here intact, we'll just carefully have a closer look at this picture here and how the black lines are represented there. Dun, dun, dun. Lo and behold, Teddy has decided to turn up and help me with this video. Teddy is the offspring of Little Cat, and Teddy looks very much like his mum. Unfortunately, the mum was hit by a car when Teddy was 6 months old. Teddy's about 7.5 months now. He's got a little while more before he's a fully fledged cat. He's a very, very nice cat. Very good natured. He loves underneath here. He loves it. He's been scratched here. We're going completely off the rail here, but you know, hey, YouTube might say, oh, this can't be a kids video because now we're looking at cats. I'm sorry, but I'm really, really fazed by the system at the moment. And in the strangest way, Teddy's making me feel a lot better just by dealing with Teddy here. If only I could teach Teddy to do the reviews for me. That'd be a miracle, wouldn't it? He'd do a fantastic review. It looks like he's going to sit down on the table here. Oh, okay. Do we need to do the review, Teddy, or can we just stop? We could just play for the rest of the day, couldn't we? Hey? That's how I'm feeling. I've been feeling very melancholy. Every time YouTube attacks me, you've got no idea how it affects me mentally. And I think that's the problem with the site. They don't understand how the producers feel when they get attacked. And there's no comeback. They're always, in the end, they're always correct. And I think that's what's wrong with the system. It's always been like that. And you're probably thinking, oh, you get used to it, Leo. Well, you think you get used to it, but it actually, the effect accumulates on you. And hopefully people who understand mental stress understand what I mean by saying that. I'm really feeling strong about this, and that's why I'm going to start to talk openly about it. Because it needs to stop. It needs to stop. Aren't you beautiful, eh? I think Teddy's going to stay here. Anyway, Will we look at James or will we just play a Teddy? Hey? Yeah, I noticed your sister doesn't come up. If Bubble doesn't come up to the review table, Teddy will come and sort of find me and play. He might sit there anyway. I got totally distracted. I think I was talking about the black lines on James. And I think this is the problem with this toy here. I think there's problems in the factory. I think they've never got the black lines done correctly. And strangely, and I might pull it out. In fact, I will pull it out. I've got a James in there. That is a great example of one that I found that was half done right, because only the engine was done right, but the tender wasn't. Yeah, underneath the packaging looks like that. I really just think the packaging on these could have been done way better and really helped the franchise along, but hey, that never happened, did it? You know, there's something that might make me feel a bit better. Come here, sweetheart. Time to play. I'm going to aim for the driver's cab. Military grade chicken, here we go. She's singing for me. I can see the plastic starting to go. Come on, chicken. Free. James, please. Yes, got the... Oh, yes, 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 yes. I feel 100% better just from doing that. It's given me a great invigoration in life. I feel much, much happier. Rubber chicken therapy, man. Especially when they're military style. Let me just get everything back in line here. Grab James. I hope I didn't smash James up too much there. Yeah, oh, at least I got James out of the packaging. Thank you very much. Military style chicken. Wonderful work. Just be careful if you are playing with military grade rubber chickens. They can be dangerous in the wrong hands, and I will put the rubber chicken away very carefully. Quiet, you've had enough to say. Okay, I'll start to tidy this up. The infamous in-hand appraisal is next. Okay, Trackmaster 3, all engines go James, or Motorised James, or Revolution Mark II James, or whatever you want to call it, it is what it is. There's a lot of things on James here which will be the same as what I said in relation to Gordon of the same motorised series of trains. We'll take a look at the face first, and James is renowned for having quite large round cheeks and a large round bulbous nose. I suppose they've semi-given us the cheeks by these little curves, but the problem with all engines go faces is the only 3D detail is the nose. We've got a teardrop nose for James. Maybe that's going to grind on some people because it really, to me, doesn't carry across the feature of James enough in this. Maybe you can have your say, but then again, it is for all engines go, which is a 2D animation. So, to me, the face is lacking. No buffer details. The funnels are all engines go funnels. I think they're the same across all engines. The dome seems to be in the right spot. It's a nice size as well. The line work on this one's not too bad. That is the gold line work. But it's when we look at the black line work, and I want you to look at this side here. I'm going to flick this engine over. I want you to remember this side. Look at that there. Now look at this side. Darn. That looks a lot darker to me. And I'll go back to this side. I'm not doing any tricks to the camera here. I want you to see this for what it is. Remember that. And remember that. This looks way too faint. And I brought this up with the metal engine as well. I've got the example in the box over there that I will pull out, which I think is done right, but I bet you it may only be done right on one side, because to me this is almost correct. This is still a little bit off in the sense that it's a little bit transparent. Now that's proper black there. This to me still isn't proper black. It's almost like a very, very curious version of a very dark grey. I'm surprised these are coming out with this sort of bad line work. It's disappointing. I could use a stronger word, but disappointing is a nice one for this video. What is curious here is the over the cab colour is shiny black. Now, if you remember, I discussed this on the Gordon video. Oh, that is, if it hasn't been taken off YouTube yet by the YouTube Nazis. You can see Gordon there has what I call a satin black, and James has got the glossy black. We want gloss because we'll see historically all the toys have always presented with gloss. There I am spinning it around, so I'm not playing any light tricks. We've seen the light in James is nice and glossy and reflective, and it's satiny on Gordon. We want this, we don't want that. It's the same. Let me just put Gordon down for a sec. Sorry. It's the same with this plastic here. This should be shiny. The red plastic. The core plastic on this toy, for some reason, is a satin finish. I brought this up in the Gordon review. Nobody discussed this thing that I said about the plastic, and maybe it's because it's quite a deep subject of why plastic is shiny versus matte versus satin. I'm not a plastics expert. I'll always tell you what I'm not an expert on, and there's plenty of things that I'm not an expert on, but plastics is complicated, but this should be shiny. Shiny red engines. You know, shiny blue engine, shiny frippin' whatever engine, okay? The cab is probably nice in the sense that it is a dugout cab. Instead of a black detail here, we've got a big cutout, which is sort of curious. I can put my finger in there. Quite a big cutout, which represents the window where the driver would poke his head around to drive the train. The coupler is way too long, and it's up to the toy company to make this right, not for us to come and chop this and make it right. We should be buying this at the length that it should be, and when we see this up and running, you'll just have to start laughing at how far the tender is away from the engine. The wheels on James, to me they should be black. It's a gunmetal grey. Maybe some people argue, oh, at least it's grey, we can see it against the black underneath. Well, James should have black wheels. He does have a pony wheel, in essence, up the front. Let me just reach over and get my little pointer. There is a little representation of a wheel here. It's like on Gordon, it's very small. You can almost, I'm trying to get the glint there in the eye, it's almost nonsensical and useless to have it there. That should be a pony wheel there. James has basically the wheel here, but we can't see. Yes, these wheels here are correct. There's 3 wheels all there underneath the main engine, and there's that little dimple which is wrong on James. There's a little dimple here which was the same on Gordon, which almost represents a wheel under the driver's cab, but James, I believe, doesn't have that. Yet that's the same dimple, probably the same plastic as what's used in Gordon. Look, I think I've said enough there. It's just really disappointing they got this black line work wrong. It's really important. James is defined by this black line work, and you'll see this when we show you the other models as I flash them through. I have got previous versions of James we're going to look at. When it's done right, it really makes it look nice. When it's done wrong, it's a fail. Okay, taking a look at the tender, I believe this is basically identical to Gordon's tender, except this one's red. So there's really not much to say here. I just sound like a broken record talking about this because it's got all of the failings that basically the Gordon tender has and the things that I don't like. I mean, you can see what's missing here and the things that should be there. And I'm looking at the black line work on each side. Just remember that. I think this is almost the same on both sides. And just remember that. I think it's pretty similar. I think the 5, it's not standing out in the way it should. And we'll see that on the other tenders when I look at the other ones. I should have a little black line work around the 5. And then that 5 starts to pop out, but it's missing on this tender. Yeah, so effort. I've got James Trackmaster 3 2021 in my hand. Now I'm going to bring up the other James that I've got here. This is Trackmaster 2 2013, and I just want you to take a look at what's going on here. It's one of these things that's almost like what you see on camera will do all the talking for me. I don't have to do too much explaining and talking. I think the shininess of what came before is remarkable. It's funny. We bagged this out when we saw this because what was happening, a lot of the engines look very similar, but now we look at this, we go, wow, if only we could go back to that. There's that peculiar thing that goes on with the Thomas toys that we bag it out, but then we want it. Will the same thing happen with All Engines Go Motorised? That's the big question. Okay, so you can see what's going on there. If we look at the back here, yeah, I think the cab's better on Trackmaster 3. But, you know, that shine is really important, and it's really sad it's lacking. Looking at the wheels bit there. Okay, yeah, you've sort of seen enough. Look at the black. The black artwork is really important when it's done right. Okay, I'm going to bring up another one now, and we're going to go back to Trackmaster 1, 2009. This is going to be a bit of a tricky one to show because it's got a tender attached. It's a bit of a special one, this one. And I've forgotten how I ended up with this James. I won't feature what it does at the moment, but it talks and it does basically everything for you. It's quite a complicated toy. So looking at that there versus, try and get it back a bit, Trackmaster 1 versus Trackmaster 3, it's almost like they're from two totally different planets. Noticing the buffer details on the Trackmaster 1, the face as well. I mean, we want classic, don't we? The shininess, yeah, and this section here, man, I'm just having a complete mental lapse here. That squarish bit, the bit where there's the big fire. Oh my god, I can't talk. I suppose it's here on Trackmaster 3. The firebox. Is that it? Train freaks will correct me. Yeah, Trackmaster 1, hey? 2009, what's marked on that James there. And we're going to go back another step again. Oh, I like going back in time. I like going back in time. This is TOMY 1994. Tender is attached on this toy. We've got buffer details, classic James face. It's so different to Trackmaster 3. Again, it's almost like it's a James from another planet. Scale wise, detail wise, on so many levels. It's sort of curious because there were almost more details going on the Trackmaster 1 and 2 versus this TOMY, and this TOMY's a real clanger, and I'm saying clanger in a nice way. So different, so different to what's going on now. My goodness, if only we could go back to the good old days, hey? This TOMY James is a beautiful toy, and the beauty goes way beyond the face or the buffer details or the lampposts on the front. The beauty extends to the whole way the toy is designed, and that's one of the hallmarks of TOMY toys. You could cover up the face and you could still exactly know who's in my hand. And it sort of goes back to the whole idea of, well, what is a good Thomas character when it comes to a toy? Well, it's the colour, the face, and really, the shape's just as important as everything else. In my hand here are two Jameses, of course. They're metal engine or push-along toys, and I've got these here to show you a positive outcome of All Engines Go redesign in the toys. If I go back to 2018, this is what James looked like. It was probably one of the worst James that you could ever have. So maybe in that sense it'll become highly collectible because it was one of the worst. And I think a lot of people thought, well, you couldn't bury yourself into the ground any further. You couldn't get much worse than this, especially the way the wheels were done. Thankfully, along came All Engines Go, Metal Engine James, and it was really a nice James to look at. It was a vast improvement to what came before it. And I think I really got to point that out, and I'm pointing this out because All Engines Go has worked really well with the metal engines, but I feel that it hasn't quite worked as well with the motorised redesigns. I just think the metal engines look way better than the motorised ones. I've lined up the Jameses, so the back of the cabs are all lined up. I've got our TOMY, Trackmaster 1, Trackmaster 2, Trackmaster 3, and it's when I cock the camera in this direction here, my god, look at the gap going on between the tender and the engine with Trackmaster 3. That's crazy. I just think that gap's just way too big. I can easily get two fingers in between there. Before I forget, let me grab this over here and I will take a look at the James in this. I was going to keep this as a nice weirdo factory error for the fact we've got good line work on the engine and dud line work on the tender, but I think it might be worthwhile just ripping into this. And of course it's going to be made frippin' child proof, so I've got to fight past all that. Really frustrating. They do this so things aren't stolen from things in store. Come on, oh, they're getting it. I need that chicken back, don't I? This thing's putting up a massive fight. Out. Now to retrieve the things that I'm after. I'll get rid of this. It's this that I'm after. I just gently grab these things and put them away nicely. This is the James in the multi-pack. To me, this black line works nice. It could be just a little bit darker to be true black. Unusual because the tender with it had that really faint line work. It's one of the faintest that I've seen. But it's when I look at the other side of this, James, what do you think it's going to be? Nice and black, or it's going to be a bit washed out? Unfortunately, it's washed out, in particular the ones over the wheels here. So yes, look at that there. Remember that there. Versus, really, this is how it should be done. But sadly, it's not. That James there also has a little bit of trouble in the way the yellow lines don't quite line up correctly there. I've seen worse, but there's an indication of one that's got a few problems going on. And what I'll do now is I'll just clear some space. Maybe very carefully move these gently this way. Oops. And I'll bring the turntable up. And I'm going to have a bit of a chat to what I'm seeing going on in store. It's one of these things, a picture tells 1,000 words. You can see what's there, or maybe you can spin it around and you can say, I can see what's not there. I certainly remember telling you way back from Easter onwards, if you're seeing any decent Thomas & Friends toys, be it the 3-packs, the play sets, or the decent single packs or whatever, grab it when you see it. Don't think you can come along in November or December and grab what you really want. I'm taking this footage here just 6 weeks out from Christmas, and I can see the same dynamic which has been happening in the previous years leading up to Christmas. There's going to be a shortage of stock when December comes around. In fact, I can see empty pegs and empty shelves going on now. I can't see how it's going to be any different, remembering the supply chain around the world is still rattled by the C, V and P. But you can't say these words on YouTube or else strange things happen to your video. There's also another dynamic going on in my local Kmart. The shoplifting has gone into a much deeper bunny hole, and it's got really, really bad. It's not getting any better. One thing has been resolved, but another thing is getting worse and worse, and that's going to be a dedicated video, and that's going to start to blow your head apart when you see what's going on there. Okay, there's a nice lineup of Jameses. I'm going to pick off the TOMY James here, 1994. And I'll keep saying this, thank God I'm showing something from that era, because you'd be an adult now if you're watching this video. Thank God for adults watching the video, hey YouTube. I'm not going to talk for a while because I want you to listen to how beautiful this sounds. It's a classic toy in all sorts of ways, including the sound. I'm going to move this TOMY James into the inside track. It is powered by a C battery, and the battery is actually in the tender. And you might say one of the faults of this style of toy was there was all sorts of different battery configurations going on. And that did carry over to the Trackmaster 1, but it got stamped out by Trackmaster 2 and 3. And everything got very standardized. This TOMY James is starting to make a high-pitched whirring sound. I think it's starting to wake up. It's been in storage a little bit too long. Go, James, go. Next, I'll pick off the Trackmaster 1 James, 2009. This is a bit of a special one for the fact it's got sounds and a sort of stop-go feature. I'm not exactly sure when I had grabbed this James. It may have been from the charity shop back when toys came to me in that fashion. The on switch is on the back here, and it's going to do all sorts of talking and all, and it does a chugging sound. In fact, what I'll do is I'll stop the TOMY James so I can hear this Trackmaster 1 James properly. Come here, Rooster. Turn you off a bit, and we'll let the Trackmaster 1 James catch up to me here, remembering how to operate a turntable. Very nice indeed, isn't it? As it chugs along, it makes all sorts of different verbals and train sounds. Hopefully it's going to do another one for me. That was bust my buffers, and I think to trigger those you press the button here as well. Yes. It's just such a lovely toy. We don't get stuff like that today. This toy is marked as made by Mattel 2009, and people call it Trackmaster 1. And there was another feature about this toy, and it comes to the fact that when you lift up the tender here, James is going to stop. And there's a hissing sound. Okay, so maybe this is a clue to what this James is called. If I put the tender back down, he will chug along again. Okay, I'll lift it back up again. Makes a hissing sound. Yes, is it bringing back lots of memories? Would want to. I would dare say there would have been a piece of track that James would have ridden onto, and it would have lifted up the tender to stop James like that. It just would have ridden the back wheel up a bit, because it's the back wheel, if I just trigger it here, that will trigger James to run and stop. It's purely that back wheel. Oh, my goodness me. Back when toys were toys, eh? So different to what is served up today, without getting too cranky. I've often wondered why the toy industry is so keen for change. Part of it confuses me, but then again, maybe part of it doesn't. Let me just turn this Trackmaster 1 James off. I'll put it into the... Man, it was actually quite a noisy James, that one. I'll put it into the middle there, and I will get what's known as Trackmaster 2. And we had a radical change in all sorts of ways here. Maybe for the fact the core, where the batteries reside in this toy, is the same across all the toys, apart from maybe a couple, without getting too technical, because there are a couple of special variations that were made. And we'll just quietly listen for a bit, hey? Boring. There was a fair few negative things said about Trackmaster 2 and a couple of positive things, but now we look back onto Trackmaster 2 and we're not that critical now. Strange how things change. I'd like to get all these running now before I put on the all engines go James. I'll have to very quickly get this up and running before there's a train wreck. And what I want to look at is the 5. Let's take a look at the number 5 there. Okay, just remember these number 5s. Taking a look at the number 5 there. Okay, and Trackmaster 2 is going to come along, and we're looking at the number 5 on the tender. Okay, here it comes. Okay, got a nice picture of that. Just keep a bit of a mental picture about how those 5s look on those Jameses, because the next one we're going to show is a little bit different. Okay, Trackmaster 3 2021. Straight away it looks like the elephant in the room, which is a little saying I have about all engines go motorised. Okay, it's up on the turntable, and strangely the turntable's not playing up on me, which is rather nice, but take a look at that James there. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Just looking along the side here, and take note, oh, it's just got the shunt from the Trackmaster 2 James. Look at the 5 on the tender there. Of course now it's going to play games with me. I'm just going to track around. Look at the 5 there. What do you think? Yes. Bit strange, isn't it? You know why? Because it hasn't got the black around it, which makes it stand out like the other 5s on the other tenders do. It needs to have a bit of black around it, just like that one there and all the others, to make it work. I'm getting a shot like this, looking at the back of the turntable. If I start the clock around, you start to see the other Jameses in the different eras of these toys, and then we come to the All Engines Go James. It looks strangely, radically different. be it in a good or bad way, well, it's up to you to decide. It's a very different looking James indeed. Well, sometimes it changes as good as a holiday, and what I've noticed is, and this is the main thing you need to look out for, is the toy popular in this new format? Well, from what I see going on in store, and I look at a lot of stuff in store because we look at it like adults and consumer affairs, don't we, YouTube clown ass site? It's an extremely popular, well-selling toy, but James has only, in a sense, just come out, and I had trouble finding this James. It was the only James that was there. And it also reminds me that I had a lot of trouble getting this James out of the store, and I had a hiccup at the checkout, so I spoke about in the Gordon video. Yeah, some problems just never seem to go away, do they? If I do a weird helicopter shot like this, you get a sense for how different the All Engines Go James is versus the other Jameses. In fact, the other three, up the back there, almost look like little siblings, and the All Engines Go James looks like something that, well, the milkman brought into the family. It's amazing how well behaved these Jameses are on the turntable, and it's a lovely sound, but that nice sound's coming from the TOMY James and also the Trackmaster 1, but they're really behaving, which is nice. We can't have too much fun, or else the argument point is, oh, you're entertaining children now and you're going to flag you off the site. That's the way it works now. YouTube's turned toxic against the producers. And here we're looking at toy history. You know, we're comparing toys from a bygone era to toys of today as I'm making the video. But the stupid algorithm bot is never going to understand that because it's completely dumbass, and I've always said that. Dumbass from top to bottom. A bit of an overhead shot like this. We can't do too many radical shots or else it upsets the rail fans. Yeah, it's very nice to look at, and really a lot of the niceness is the sound it makes. Curious thing, it seems that Trackmaster 2 James is faster than All Engines Go, and I'll just possibly prove that by swapping these around and getting it on the tracks correctly. Oh, of course there's going to be a train wreck, isn't there, because when you don't... Look, Trackmaster 1 James got upset there because there's no attention paid to him, but I reckon that is going to tear away. That is Trackmaster 2 James, and it's going to prove to me it's actually faster than All Engines Go James. I can see it streaking ahead there. There's a big gap starting to develop there between them. Yeah, so strangely it doesn't make any sense, because you'd think with this connecting rod here it's going to be more friction and more things to work, yet it's definitely taking off with great gusto. You can see there just how it's catching up. Quite surprising. Maybe it's because All Engines Go is heavier. I really don't understand. That was really unusual indeed. I'll shoot some video of these Jameses on the turntable in slow motion. Hopefully the full beauty of the toys will be revealed. If I'm entertaining children here, I will then be shot in the head. I do look at a social media lawyer on YouTube called Ian Corzine. I hope I said his name correctly there. I first found his channel years back in relation to some great fair use videos he's done on YouTube. And recently he's done some great videos in relation to the YouTube Kids /Copper/FTC snowballing nightmare and how it's affected producers on YouTube. Ian talks about general audience videos, he talks about mixed audience videos, he talks about a targeted audience. And if you think about some videos and some channels, you say to yourself, is it a black channel, is it a white channel, or is this channel set in some shade of grey? And there'd be so much content on YouTube which lapses into the grey that it's not funny. And I think this is one of the big problems in trying to define saying that this channel is a kids channel or this channel is not a kids channel, because there's so much grey in between. Ian Corzine also talks about the definitions that the FTC use in how to define what is a children's video. And even he says the language used there is quite confusing. That's coming from a lawyer. So that sort of shows you how difficult this whole scenario is. But what I found very interesting on the read on the FTC website was a section there that spoke about a way to define a channel is to go and look at the about section of the channel. Now, earlier in this video, I showed you my about section. Thankfully for me, that section has been the same well before the copper decision. And there's a little section in there, and I'd like to read it to you again. And it says that Leo Can Video is a YouTube channel that's always been family friendly, but not, in capitals, a suck up YouTube kids channel. So when I'm dragged into court, I'd like to say, well, this is how my about section reads, and it's been like that well before the copper decision. I've been having trouble with the dark side videos, and I haven't made one of those for a very long time. A lot of people ask, Leo, why have you stopped making those? We want to see another one of those videos. These videos get treated in a quite unusual way on YouTube. They can either be age restricted, or they can just have monetization taken away for some unknown reason, or they can be seen as a kid's video. So, as you would know, all these videos, in a sense, are all fairly similar. A lot of my content is basically very similar stuff. It's made of the same cookie cutter, but it's been put in the oven in different temperatures in a sense. Some of it's overcooked, some of it's undercooked, some of it is cooked just right. The dark side videos would be a classic example of where the system on YouTube that analyzes content really shows how dumb ass it is. I really think that's a great example of how it just cannot define what's going on in a video. I've recently been looking around at some other channels on YouTube to see who else has been mucked around by the system, and I'm going to talk about one of the all-time great channels on YouTube. It was a massive channel at the start. It was a channel that would have brought so many people to the YouTube site, and it's a channel called Fred. It was started by a gentleman called Lucas. I believe he sold it years back now to somebody. Maybe you'll know who he sold it to. And Lucas has got his own successful channel now. I had a poke around at the Fred channel. Some of the videos have fallen to YouTube Kids. Some of the videos are still set normal on YouTube. I can still see the comments there. And then I thought to myself, well, hang on a second. The system is obviously having trouble trying to define Fred's content. Now, if I ask you, as someone watching this video, and if you know Fred's content, is Fred's content aimed at children? And you may initially say, of course it is. That's kids stuff. Well, no. No, go and watch the videos, but more so go and listen to the videos, because a lot of the Fred material is written on two levels. There's stuff there for kids. There's also some very adult humor laced into it as well. It's actually quite clever. It is written on two levels, and that would be a great argument point for whoever owns Fred these days when they have their day in court. There was a time when Google staff would ask me a very simple question like this: Leo, what's your 5-year plan? And I used to laugh and giggle and say back, you'd be lucky to get a 5-second plan out of me. And I think with the way YouTube is these days, with the terms of service constantly morphing and changing, how could you ever have a 5-year plan set in place? Because you may develop something that's fairly edgy and current, and then what you'll find is within a couple of years, I'm sorry boys and girls, but that edgy and current content is too much for us to handle. There's been a constant of that going on YouTube for many years now. And finally, I'd like to talk about a Thomas and Friends YouTuber who I used to really enjoy watching his videos. He was very informative on the history of the Thomas and Friends toys, in particular Thomas Wooden Railway. His name was Turtles and Thomas. And there's been a lot of things said in videos on the YouTube comments area about Turtles and Thomas, and a lot of quite nasty stuff. And I would come in and say, exactly who did you hear this from? And of course the reply back to me was, oh, I heard this from somebody else. So it's all this hearsay stuff being said, and nobody's hearing this directly. And it's actually very disturbing, and something that really, really annoys me about the comments area on YouTube, especially when people start to just talk about stuff that they heard from somebody else, that heard from somebody else, that heard from somebody else. It gets quite vicious and can get quite dark. And the curious part about Turtles and Thomas is, when I looked on the Social Blade website, I noticed something quite interesting. It said, marked, made for kids by YouTube. And I thought to myself, you know what? I got a sneaky suspicion that YouTube's come along and basically marked down his whole channel. And that would be a completely devastating thing to have happen to any producer on the site, because getting marked down as made for kids is as good as killing off a channel completely. And what's really sad, and all the stuff that's been said about Turtles and Thomas, nobody's considering how this poor guy feels once his channel has been set as made for kids by YouTube. It would be completely devastating. As I was shooting the slow motion footage, there was a great big train wreck, and it looks like the TOMY James has given up the ghost. Let me just turn off this one here. That's the Trackmaster 1 James. It just completely stopped, but it made some really unusual sounds. Mind you, the slow motion doesn't capture sound. I've always got to overlay the sound on top of. Let me turn those off as well. That's how they ended up. Uh-oh. Can you hear that? Doesn't sound good. It's sounding like the drive's failed in this James. I'm just going to tease it along here a bit, see if... Ooh. Uh-oh. Trying to get some life out of this James. It really sounds like something stripped, in a sense. I can hear the drive spinning, the motor drive spinning, but I dare say a nylon cog in there has failed. Ooh. I can hear strange sounds inside. Nah. It actually just reminded me what was nice about these toys was the fact you could play with them like push along type toys, which you couldn't do later on. We can't get too angry. Sorry James, you have passed away. We'll have a moment of silence for TOMY James. Bit of a glum video. I don't like it when a classic toy dies, and it's not nice to watch happen in front of you. It's not coming back to life. I know there'll be the TOMY people who will tell me how to fix that. Let me just get the trains here, because just the one final thing I'm going to discuss in this video, and it in the box over here, and I did hopefully talk about this right at the start of the video. And it relates to that shooting star Gordon that I found that had been stored in a tub. And a lot of people have made comments about toys that get a yellowing effect. And this is an unusual one because it's yellow on one side, but the other side is okay. The bottom third is okay. And when it was in box, and I'll just quickly explain this again, it was in a black tub, and it was when I lifted the toy up, I came across that, the yellowing in the blue there. As I said, I'm pretty sure I said the tender was stored in a separate box, and it was a little white tub like this that the tenders get stored in. I stored the tenders separate to the engines, and I think a lot of people said that this had been exposed to sunlight, and it was the way it was stored, blah blah blah. It was in a completely dark environment for years. And if it was a sunlight issue, let's say back when it was being played with or seen in videos, it would have had its tender with it. So the tender would have been affected like the way the toy is, but the tender has no yellowing effect going on. So I know a lot of people commented about the yellowing of plastics, and in particular the shooting star Gordon, but I think a lot of people didn't quite understand the way it was stored. It was when I lifted something up and it came across that. Well, I don't believe it's a sunlight thing. I think it's something else going on. Now, this tub here, people said I had a TOMY Gordon when I looked at Pull Tracks. Now, all the Pull Tracks toys, the last time I tinkered with them, are all in this box. And what's good about this here is I can actually see problems with these toys. Some of them have got yellowing on one side. This Harold is yellow on that side, but it's yellow everywhere. It's more yellow on this side. I think it's less yellow on that side, or the front. be the best way to say it. It's almost like the back of it's gone yellow. Underneath, it's going to be very hard to see on camera, but there's problems going on with that Harold there. A lot of these toys have been damaged for the fact they were pull tracks toys. There's been a lot of rusting going on in screws and axles and things. The Thomas here has also got a yellowing problem. It hasn't been cleaned up. They've all been debatteried and just basically put in this box, and haven't been in an area where there's light ever since they were playing in the pool. So maybe some of these toys here can be used as little experiments on a process of getting, well, hopefully getting the yellowing out of the plastic. If I dig a bit further here, I was noticing it in these trucks. You can see how it's gone yellow in areas. And I always think about how white computers turn beige as a classic example. Sometimes light switches in homes. That truck is not as affected as the other one. It's a bit strange because some things here are more affected than others. There's a Boco here. I would dare say Boco is going to be dead because water would have got up inside Boco, and I think water kills these toys. I'm not even going to put a battery in to try to work out what's going on. Be a little bit sad if it has died. Certainly things of the past that I certainly wouldn't never be presenting on YouTube of today. We've gone past Halloween as I'm making this video, but I would never do another Halloween video on this site in the way they've been treated on the site, as in demonetized. They're just boom, demonetized. Spencer. Okay, I'm just looking to see what condition Spencer's in. He doesn't present with any, and you think if there's any yellowing going on, it's going to be pretty easy to see on Spencer. Yeah, that's the Pull Tracks toys. Okay, and Gordon isn't in there, and Gordon went all crumbly, and that's what I said in the other video. I'm pretty sure Gordon was totally destroyed. He just crumbled to nothing. And that's sort of what goes on with this style of plastic in the end. If it gets too much light and stuff, UV, I think it gets heavily affected by like a breakdown. And then people were saying that some toys were made with very cheap plastics, and it came back to almost like plastic chemistry. In fact, I'd say that Thomas there, if you look at that side there, just remember that looks okay, but this side looks yellowed. This and the Harold here, I think, will be nice little test pieces. Now, to get onto a process, well, one process that I remember seeing on YouTube years ago now, and it was a YouTuber called AVE, and I could say that don't go there if you're a little person. There's a lot of strange language on AVE's channel, very strange and comical. Thank God it's comical, because maybe that's a loophole. This stuff here, cream peroxide, it's a hair product, 40 volume, it's 4%. He was putting electrical switches with this smeared on it with the Glad wrapped around it, put out in the sun, and over a couple of days it was taking out the yellow in plastics in a very good way. I'm yet to play with this. And there's another one here that I just read about online, and it's the stuff that you would use if you had false teeth, okay, or dentures as some people may call it. And people were making up like a hot mix of water, putting these tablets in, and then leaving the thing that's yellowed in the water, and it was pulling the yellow out of the plastic. In a strangest way, I think I've got more faith in this here, this cream peroxide. I liked it because when it says poison on it, poison makes me feel happy. So that might be a nice thing to do in the future, making sure it's adult orientated, or else I'm going to get completely screwed over. And I had a really good think about where did the Gordon go. I'm usually a person who doesn't throw things away, and I've got these boxes up here above my review table. There's a lot of stuff here that's basically frozen in time because of the way YouTube has changed for me. A lot of projects just had to come to a grinding halt. And, you know, it's just too dangerous, is the way I could say it, to progress with them. Sorry for the lens flare there, because the light there. But I've got a box here that says broken toys. Let's take a look what's inside this one. I'll just ease the turntable across that way a bit. Broken toys. There's going to be a few memory things in here for you, and also maybe things you've never seen, because my children would have a broken toy and they say, "Dad, can you fix it?" Well, it's reminding me of how shoddy the plastic was in some of these toys. I never made a video of that stopped working. That was one of the... That was an unusual Thomas, that one, wasn't it? Just all of a sudden stopped working. Frippin' hell. Oh, I can see FNAF toys in here. I think a lot of these had really brittle plastic. What's this? What was broken with this one? Uh-oh. Someone forgot to take the batteries out. Maybe that's why it's here. And certain brands really leak hard, I tell you, without mentioning a brand name there. Oh God, I'll get in trouble, won't I? I think that's why that's in there. But what's worrying me is this. Well, it's not worrying me, I'm actually semi-happy. Oh, flippin' hell, I can't believe this. Guess what's here? Dun dun dun. Okay. You know what I really like is I've got audience members who were absolutely certain I had a Tommy Gordon pull tracks, and it made me look at that box there, and I knew it broke up. I did keep the... Man, I wish I brought this out when I did the Gordon review. My God, I've still got this Gordon and it's still got lots of problems going on. I wish I remembered I had this Gordon back when I looked at All Engines Go Gordon. It just would have been nice to make that hard up comparison. This is Tommy 1995. Was that a good year or a bad year for toys? Well, looking at this Gordon, it was an excellent year, although this Gordon is in really bad shape. I think from memory it fell from the review table and it basically just shattered. I remember it was broken up. But I actually semi-forgot that I'd stored it away, and it wasn't until a lot of people were making comments saying, "Wow, Leo, that was a pull tracks Gordon, blah, 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 blah." And yeah, I had to look at the pull tracks toys, to look at yellowing of toys, and to look for the Gordon, and then I thought, well, where is it? And of course, I've got a box of broken toys. It is yellowed. What's good about this, I can use this as a test piece as well. I can see that it's got problems going on here with the yellowing of the plastic. I know the plastic's extremely brittle. The face is also gone yellow. So it's going to be curious to play with. The wheels are not. And someone said Shooting Star Gordon's the same. The wheels haven't changed colour, but the body has. And people are talking about different plastics that are used. And as I'll say it again, plastics is a really complicated subject. I'm in no way an expert about it. I mean, you really have to deep dive into plastics to understand it. I'm pretty sure I would have, not had the battery in here. Don't know if I can get that out. Oh, see, it's all smashed up inside. It's in really bad shape. And what's curious is that the yellowing has gone on inside there as well. And you think, well, how would that happen? It's more like, well, sunlight wouldn't get in there. Look at that, it's as yellow in there as anywhere else. So try to work that one out. I've got no idea. That's a sticker on the side. That's why that's kept its colour. Again, the wheels here look okay. It really starts... It's a whole bunny hole of new things. I reckon this side here is not as affected as this side, or am I dreaming? I definitely think down the back end here is gone more yellow, and I'm absolutely certain the face area here is definitely not right. But wow, audience know more than me. Well, the audience have always known more than me. I've known that for donkey's years on YouTube. I've learned so much from the audience, and well, they keep teaching me and they keep reminding me, because my brain's fried by this site. What a revelation to find this, and it's going to help me understand if we can pull out the illness of what's going on here. Although I think that whatever's gone on here has really affected the structure of the plastic, in the sense that it is extremely brittle. Bits of this would break off way too simply. What an interesting find. Right up the end of this quite curious and sad video.
My flipping God! Are you going to believe that stupid story about him not finding that Tommy Gordon and making out as if you helped him? Don't believe a word he says! He's playing with your mind. He's manipulating you into thinking you're smarter than him. Don't trust him. I know how he operates. I watch everything up here and what he does. And he's going to make out he's going to fix these toys. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fix these toys myself. I'm going to mess with his mind while I'm doing it. Just let me do my naughty work right now. Look what I found hidden under his review bench. Mr. Frippin' Hammer! Come with me, Mr. Hammer! Let's play! Frippin' hell! Mr. Hammer's frippin' heavy! Anyway, with this I can rule the world, and I can fix up his Tommy Gordon before he thinks he can fix it himself. What did he teach me about hitting toys? I think he said aim for the firebox.